Hello, hello, everyone.
Greetings. I am Zawadi, and the first voice that you heard is Dr. Eve. We want to thank you for joining us tonight on Wellness Wednesday. This is season 4 for us, and this is our 57th episode. So, once again, thanks for joining. And I must say this before I say anything else: like, subscribe, hit the notification bell. This way, we know that you'll be with us and invite your friends. So, for those of you who are new to our channel, let us share that our mission is to accelerate wealth building opportunities by strengthening mindsets and advancing education and investments in disruptive technology. Dr. Eve, tell us a little bit about disruptive technology.
We use the word disruptive because we want to do is disrupt the wealth gap, right? But folks wonder, well, if it's disruptive, how can that be good? But think about all the different ways in which technology now is used to further health, and even wealth, right? When COVID happened, we had to truly move into, full speed ahead and turn to telehealth, right? And we use our devices for that. That's an example of technology. Our phones, we don't no longer put change in a payphone. As a matter of fact, you can't even find a payphone if you try to look for one. Now we have access and we could speak globally. So there's so many different ways that our life has been enhanced through technology.
Exactly. You remember carrying those big boom boxes and having a camera and all these things, but now that's your phone, it's your Samsung, it's your iPhone. That is another example of disrupting technology.
Mm-hmm.
So let's just pause a moment. We are not halfway through our season, and we have had incredible speakers drop gems.
Mm-hmm. And
Doc-
this past few weeks, it's been all about creating vision, using AI to bring ideas to life, and watching our community step into their power as creators, entrepreneurs, right? So that's exciting.
you got it.
Mm-hmm.
There's so many in our community sharing that they
Mm-hmm.
started as a side gig, side hustle, and it blossomed into a full time business. The question that pops up for them is, how can I protect what I've built? What do you think about that?
That's a real question. Look, I'll be very transparent here. I've had a few side gigs, but I never thought that an LLC was something for me, right? And now I'm realizing, wow, did I really was have I been protecting my assets this whole time, right? And everything that I've worked so hard to build. So I am so glad that we're here tonight to answer some of those questions that myself and so many others have about their business.
Absolutely. It's said it's not about what you make, it's about what you keep. And that's the
Mm-hmm.
one thing that many business owners find out when it's too late. And our guest tonight is going to break it all down for us. As I said, our guest is Kayla Marte of Kayla Consulting. And let me just say a bit about her. She is a results driven strategist with experience in nonprofit development, political campaigns, and project management. She launched this journey without a roadmap, and that's something that a lot of people do. Now, Kayla is the guide that she wished she had back then. Her passion is helping small businesses overcome obstacles with customized strategies. Her superpower is translating complex businesses and legal concepts, into actionable steps that work for real people. So now, we know you got your tea, whatever your beverage is, and Kayla has appeared on the screen, so let's go.
Yes.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for having me tonight. I'm so
Mhm.
excited and so honored to be on here. This is my first time, but I've heard wonderful things about the community and have been plugged in for quite some time. So, again, I'm going to be sharing my screen shortly and I'm going to be introducing myself, telling you a little bit about who I am. And this title and presentation is called Protect Your Hustle is the LLC your next move. So we're going to get into the nuts and bolts of what an LLC is, the different tax types of businesses, right? What is the difference between a type of business versus a tax election, right? We get it confused sometimes, the average audience. So let's have this be a small step, right, to your guide to business structures, a very deep dive, but of course there can always be follow up if there's more questions. And we really want to just take your hustle to the next level, especially if you are a small business owner like myself. Okay, so I'm going to go to the next slide. So who am I? Keyla Consulting. I have my company for about a little over 5 years now, and we serve as business development experts, which means we're specializing in helping solo entrepreneurs and small business navigate the complex world of business formations and marketing. So we call our 3B framework. It's branding. So we do provide the website, the development, and the marketing. But then a lot of my clients were like, okay, I have a website. How do I get my first sale? So then we really started honing in on our business development component, which then walks you through, all right, now that you have your business, what should you do with it? Who is your target audience? Where can you go from here? And let's make sure you're legally compliant on paper and making sure that you're taking advantage of some tax advantages, etc. And then our last thing, I'm a project manager by trade. And so back end operations have been my everything I can remember. So been doing nonprofit and business development for a little over 10 years. And I actually was going to be working with small business services back in 2020. So I was training with them and then learned a lot of the knowledge I know now. And I really am excited to just work with people who look like me, who come from communities like me, and get amazing results for my clients and just doing it together. So the actual name of our company and our motto is Lifting While Climbing. But everyone thought we were a construction company, and so I have my DBA now, Keyla Consulting and Company, just to not confuse anyone. So, okay, so let's put in the chat. I want to see some ones or twos in the chat if you can, or reactions. If you know what a DBA stands for, or what is a DBA? Have you ever heard it before? Is that a term that sounds familiar? What does a DBA stands for? I'll give it 5 more seconds. Just put a one in the chat if you've heard it before, and if you haven't, that's okay. We'll jump into it now. All right. So when starting a business, you're typically going solo or normally thinking about what am I doing, right? You probably don't even know you have a business. You're probably doing it without doing it. So when I started my business, I was just telling people information that I started learning. Hey, did you know your business could get certified? Do you know what a business certification is in New York City? And I was telling friends and family like, hey, you should get your business certificate. And they were like, can I just pay you to do it? And I was like, oh, this is actually a thing. So when I first filed my business, I learned to just do it online. I just winged it by myself. And then I'm like, New York City, LLC. I filed my LLC. But then I quickly learned that New York City has a publication requirement. And while I heard what it was, I didn't really pay attention. So then I had to fast forward, learn some from my mistakes and do it properly, right? So an LLC in New York City, of course, stands for Limited Liability Company. A DBA stands for Doing Business As. Both of them, you will receive a seal from the official state, and you can do this in any state you're located in. But normally for the DBA, you have to go to a county clerk office, right? So when you're thinking about what is the difference between a DBA and an LLC, is mainly that your DBA is under your assets, your personal self, your social security, so to speak, right? You can have an EIN, which stands for an entity identification number with the IRS under a DBA or as an individual. However, your assets, your bank accounts, everything is streamlined under one place. And so the LLC, normally you'll hear like, oh, it's more protection. It's more, if I get sued, they can't touch my assets. That's not necessarily always true, right? So we'll go into that in a moment, but I really want you to understand that you can have a business very much by just going to your county clerk and having a DBA. Yes, that's still the same, legally compliant. You can open up a business bank account once you have the document, but you just need to know that you're known as a sole proprietor. So there's no legal wall between you and your business and your personal life. And if your business gets sued, they can come after your personal assets. And creditors can come after your house. They can put a lien against your assets, right? So it's all your personal savings. It's all monged in one, so to speak. So that is the DBA question. And great if you knew what it meant. And now you know. All right. So a little bit about the business structure landscape between the sole proprietor an LLC, and really understanding the difference between them is that the sole proprietor is probably usually easier. It's a little cheaper because you don't have to spend as much money. As particularly in New York State, they have a huge fee that adds on to for the publication, right? So it could cost you about $600, sometimes up to $1,000 just to publicate, which is pretty pricey if you're just starting out, you're just trying to figure it out. Whereas a sole proprietorship, a DBA, right, at the county clerk is only going to cost you about $120 to file. The LLC itself also has a fee. So New York State is probably the only state that's left that's doing the publication. But there is a special way to get around that. You still have to do it, but there may be a secret sauce I share at the end if I'm feeling nice. And then lastly, the S Corp, I wanted to name that the S Corp is not a business structure. It is a tax election. The biggest misconception is that this is a separate entity, or no, it is a tax election, and that usually is under your LLC. So once you have your LLC, you can get your EIN, and then in your EIN letter, you're going to say, if you decide to be an S Corp, please follow these steps, right? And so you can choose to do that, but that comes with more stock certificates and more parameters. People typically do this when they're a little bit more established and your business is actually making enough income to put you on salary. That's when you start thinking. You don't have to wait until then, but that's when people usually use the benefits so that they don't have to pay more taxes for as you being an employee. So there'll be a stage for that. I just don't think it's the first thing you jump out the gate doing without knowing all the background for it. So the do's and don'ts, a little bit about the LLC. You will completely lose protection if you commingle your funds. So have you ever heard of, just Zelle me, right? And if you have an LLC and they're selling your personal account, then you lose the protection because now you're commingling, right? So you lose that separation, so to speak, that firewall that you need to create between your business, which is another person. Now, when your business get that EIN, that's a social security, so to speak. That is completely separate. Let's have its own bank account. And then you as an individual, let's keep those two separate. Let's have a Zelle for your own business account. Let's have a business account that is connected and conducting invoices and bookkeeping and all of those things separately so that you maintain that separation and firewall and that protection. And then on the personal side, let's keep that protected and away from the two, right? We want to make sure that you don't lose that protection, because then it's like, you're back to sole proprietor. You don't want to dip and dab, or one day they'll Zelle you, like, be very careful of having clients Zelle you to your personal, because it won't allow you to benefit. Okay, so moving to our sole proprietorship. So the simplest structure, again, I talked about why people do it the most, because it's the easiest sometimes, right? You don't want to deal with all the details about LLC and where I go and legal doom, as they say. There's no legal separation, though. So again, you have to remember that if you do this, you have your personal liability at risk, and then business profit are usually taxed as your personal income on your return, whereas in an LLC, you do a 1099. And that allows you to take advantage of some write-offs. You can still do write-offs with a sole proprietorship. It's just a little bit more on just all of your personal income. And so that may make you more tax burden. The LLC, again, to recap, is your business shield. So it creates the legal protection between you and your personal tax flexibility. So you have more tax options. There's a new bill coming out, unfortunately, in this climate, but that might be really good for your business, called Under the Big Beautiful Bill, where there'll be another tax advantage up to $30,000 under that. So that's something you could probably think about in the near future, and look into like how it works and see what benefits may be coming in the near future and roll out. You also have professional credibility. So when people hear LLC, they know you're legitimate, as well as banks and everything that you do business with. They understand that it's an actual LLC, and then it's a simple formation as well. So there's less formal compliance requirements as the other corporations might be or have and require you to do. So again, remember the common misconception, the S Corp is not a business structure. It's a tax election. A tax election you make after forming an LLC, like I told you on that EIN letter, allows you to split your income into salary, which we talked about, distributions and can potentially, doesn't guarantee, lower self-employment taxes. So the trade-offs you have to know, it's a little bit difficult sometimes to do it. And there's a lot more compliance requirements you have to keep up with the IRS. They'll come knocking on your door. All right. So why your LLC timing matters is because from day one, you can start with two separate entities. You also can take benefits of getting certified, right? There's a lot of businesses that in New York City, you have to be 1 year old. So at least your LLC starts aging. Think of it like a birth certificate. Your business has to be 1 year old in New York to get certified, but that year goes quick. You can then get certified, and then New York City has to procurement government contracts has to be 30% with small businesses. So that might be some more opportunities. You can grow, and then ideally, once you get to the right stage, you can have that S corp taxation so that you become an employee of your own business. That's always the goal, like free my 9 to 5, right? So that's a little bit about the nuts and bolts. I do want to share that if you have any questions as far as the LLC benefits too, I want to add that the LLC, when you have property or if you're in real estate, you often hear, oh, there's an LLC for each of the housing, the houses that I own, right? That's completely okay to do. You'll often see business owners and developers and investors do that for protection, and they usually are working towards an trust, right? Revocable or irrevocable. There's different benefits for those, but everything is about keeping everything separate. You want to manage everything, but own nothing is the same. And it's so that it has the most protection possible. So you'll often see an LLC started in Delaware, right? Or Wyoming, because there's better tax advantages there. But you have to form usually a foreign LLC if you're going to do a certain type of business in a different state. We often think that, oh, if I have my Delaware official form, I won't have to deal with New York taxes. That's not always true because it depends on where you live, right? For the year, it depends on how you're filing. And so you have to be very mindful of myths and misconceptions about when forming the business and what makes the most sense for you and your circumstance. That may work for you if you're not actively doing sales, if you're not having sales tax or merchandise, right? It depends on what business you have. So just keep that in mind. And the goal is to eventually put everything in a trust because it is the utmost protection. And when people try to find you and do all these loopholes, it's better to just have your assets as protected, especially in this digital era where tax and scams happen all the time. So I do have a quick code here where if you learned anything new, we're going to do Q&A in a moment. Please scan this code, and I can also offer a free capability statement, which is the term of like a business resume that they use in government world and procurement world. And I also have a QR code for us to do a discovery call in case you have more questions or if there's anything that I didn't get to answer just yet. And then I will share a little bit about kind of who we worked with. So it's a little slogan we have: let us manage the process so you can master the progress. And again, our 3 B's are that branding. So tired of managing your website and graphics, we help elevate your brand. That business development, struggling to scale, we really help you navigate business certifications, business filings, and really growing your presence in the procurement world as well, and back-end operations as a project manager. So we've worked with some of these amazing clients in different industries and trades. And then this is a code to schedule a call if you want to know more. And I'll take a moment to take some questions now. If we have any questions in the chat.
Let's see, just looking at the chat. Right now, we don't have any questions, but I have a question. Is this only for protecting your business, or if you happen to be a real estate owner, either one property or several properties, can you use it for that purpose as well?
Yes, so you can absolutely protect your property by filing an LLC separately because, again, if someone, let's say someone trips on the pavement on the staircase, right? If anything happens that you're liable as a landlord and property owner, they were going to come after you first. So the LLC allows you for them to go after the LLC only, right? Because if they come after you, they're coming after your savings, your retirement, your 401k, your IRA, your this, your that, it goes on and on and on. Whatever is connected to your social is what they're going to come after. Whereas the LLC, if you're just starting just the LLC, it keeps it protected and they have to go after the LLC first. And that's who the document it'll be served to, and so on and so forth. So it can be beneficial. And then eventually when you put, if you are interested, you can put it in the holding company and a trust, and sort of even create more layers of protection for yourself as a small property owner. And it's not that you have to be a conglomerate. You don't need to be a major developer to have the goal is security and asset protection, and that you don't need all of these properties to do so. The moment you have a property, you should be thinking about, how do I protect myself? Any asset, crypto, any stocks, right? All of these things are assets, and you should be thinking about, how do I protect myself to the utmost highest ability, so that in the case of anything that happens, you're at least protected. Now, we do know that people don't always sue. People were like, oh, if they're going to sue me. There are people who are professional suers. They literally will get you. So you have to be mindful of that. It's also very timely and expensive to sue. Oh, not always, but there are people who will do it even in small claims court for up to $10,000.
You know, and that's why I think, Kayla, you mentioned something that was very important that I hope everyone hones on to. You have to set it up correctly. So, you know, being able to have your own, a separate bank account, a separate email, having a separate even mailing address. So it shouldn't be your home address, keeping this entity completely separate so that, you know, they can't go after your personal assets. But if you're using your home address, if you're interchanging, like you said, with Zelle, you know, that's murky waters right there. So you have to be able to keep it straight. There is a couple of questions on the chat. And one is, how does an LLC protect an online business?
That's a good question. So with the same thing, the online business, it can still, you're still doing sales. You're still doing, there's going to be some sort of transaction happening online regardless. So it'll still allow it to, one, we think about the sales tax of depending on where you live, how you file taxes and all those things, but you can also take advantage of the write-offs. So if you can do this under either or, but the LLC will allow you to be separate again. And it does prevent, like, any of your online customers, they can always say, they can do what they want. They have the access to information. So if you separate it from you as a personal person, if they ever were to like search you or want to come, they'll have to do it to the LLC specifically once you have one. And again, for the tax filing purposes, if you're purchasing merchandise or products to sell online or whatever the online business is serving, if it's online services, there's still some sort of sale happening, that if you're doing it on your Zelle or if you're doing it on your Cash App or whatever is happening, they're cracking down on those transactions, and they're eventually going to notice that there's some pattern here. So we want to just make sure that you start building the separation, just so that it's beneficial on your taxes too. Unless you are okay with all of it being under your personal income. And if ever somebody was to come after you, that it'll be under your personal, then that's okay to stay as a sole proprietor as well.
Yes, and that's where keeping good record keeping is important and crucial, right? You never know when you get audited or if you have a dispute or anything of a sort. But keeping, I mean, when folks neglect record keeping, it presents an issue. So if you do it right from the beginning, it's creating good habits for your LLC and for your business. Exactly. We have another question. Please confirm if one can have several types of business under one LLC. And Lise, I was wondering that myself.
That's a great one. So for instance, I worked with a client once who has a laundromat, right? But her original LLC was a global like vending machine. So it's like a vending machine business, but then she has a laundromat. So we were like, so what she did, you can actually do a DBA under an LLC as well. And that allows you, I think they allow up to 10 max, but with her main LLC, she did a DBA for the laundry one. So she didn't want to do a separate full LLC, but she decided to do like I did. I did a DBA. Lifting While Climbing is my company, but people thought we were construction. So I have my DBA for Keyla Consulting and Company, and that's under the LLC. So you can have up to about 10 of those under one LLC. Where that can get tricky is if all of them are starting to be under one LLC. then that's where all of the assets, the value or whatever it is for it is under that one EIN and that LLC solely. And then you go into the operating agreements. Every LLC will have an operating agreement, which you can change, but you should always have something on file of your operating agreement, what the rules are, who the managing members are, if it's just you, right? All of that should be outlined in your operating agreement. There's free templates online, and I can always also email you a template if you need one, but those are the things that you get to do after the fact. I would just say just we spend more on probably Uber Eats than it would if you're in another state, because New York has the publication fee. But to just file the LLC alone, it's about $225 in New York State. In other states, it's $120, and you at least have the LLC. Or if you do decide to DBA, you'll at least have the filing as a secretary, so it has to have a seal on it, and that's what makes you an official like business.
Kayla, you just said, you mentioned above two. That could be expensive for some new startups. Are there any cheat codes that you can think of that you know about?
So I would say I filed the LLC, like I'm in New York and tri-state area, but Philadelphia's price LLC was a little bit cheaper too. So that one, there's states that have a little bit more of affordable version to do it. The other cheat code I would say in Albany, New York, when you're in New York, you can, this is a real giveaway because I paid hundreds and hundreds of dollars to learn this from a lawyer. There's an Albany where you can actually publish in Albany, New York versus the New York City area, and then just update the address when you're done to just save some costs on the publication fees. New York State use there's a entity that allows you to use them as a registered agent, and then you can use that address for your business address. And then when you're done with the requirement, you can always change your business address back to the tri-state or like vicinity 5 boroughs area.
Thank you. Wonderful. And this is such a deep topic, and I know you could go on and on and on, but we will have to have you back in the future.
Yes.
This topic.
There's one more question actually that on our comment section, and I wonder if you could answer that before we come to a closing. I know we only have like a couple of minutes left.
Sure.
If that's okay. It says, it's a two-part question. One is if you already have your rental property and have and have your EIN, but don't have an LLC yet, and you've had the property for a while, can you create an LLC and bring that property over? Is question number one. And the other one is, I hear about separating personal and business, but my LLC is my rental property where I also live, so it's the same address. Is that okay in that situation?
So the first question, that is a great what you can do with it's your, I don't want to confuse the two. So the first question is the
property has it's been a rental property for over 10 years. And the question is
EIN.
They have an EIN, but can they create an LLC and move that into an LLC even though it's been pre-existing for 10 years?
Technically, you can use that EIN, but you can always get a new EIN. So I would just say you can you can connect. I believe there's a way, but it'll be harder to try to pull that EIN over to your new LLC rather than just taking the 2 minutes to get the new EIN and connecting it to your LLC. If there's an account or a business account that you want to keep that is under that EIN, then I understand that, and I would go through the hassle of once you file your LLC, using that EIN and carrying it over there. So you're going to have to contact the IRS and probably go down a rabbit hole of chasing them to try to link it neatly, or they're going to recommend that you just get a new EIN because it's just way more easier to do. And then the second one, if you live there and it's a rental property, I would say consider using, there's not a right or wrong to that. It's just, you want to be mindful that it's a public, your address is public, right? When you're connecting it to your LLC, when you're connecting it to your business, all of that is public information. I would consider using a virtual office address, just for the sake of protection and security if you decide to. Regus.com has virtual addresses for the business if you wanted to do it that way. But since you live there and it's your business, it's not it can get tricky. That's where but it's not the worst thing to do if you were to leave it on your home address as the business address, because you feel like it's two in the same. But I would recommend, if you really want to make it clean and separate, to do the virtual address process, which is not hard to do online. It's just a small monthly fee.
Thank you. Thank you. These are all some really good questions here that were dropped tonight. Thank you so much.
Hopefully I didn't bore you all. No.
No, this is really exciting when you think about your money.
Oh yes,
and even our businesses. We always have
the nitty gritty. We have to do the homework so that we're clean, we're proper, we deserve all of the royalties, estates, the S corp. Eventually, a business can become a stock certificate, right? So
that's right. We're doing all these side hustles. There's so many people are having what we call side hustles, and there's a controversy about the word hustle itself, but they are true businesses, and it's great to be able to reap all the benefits of your business.
Exactly.
So that's great. I know Sawadi's going to be bringing us to our closing.
But before, I want to say one thing. I started my business in '88. There was no LLC. They didn't start until I think around '94. So it was S corp, C corp, and a lot of that didn't fit for me. So I was a sole prop for a long time, and I guess really what I should say is I'm blessed. Nothing ever happened. Nobody ever filed or anything like that. So protect your businesses. Thank you. I guess protect your hustles. So Keyla, thanks again. And we will see you in the future. Ladies and gentlemen, drop some comments. We posted Keyla's information in the chat. Visit her. You know somebody who's starting a small business? Visit Keyla. Give them the information. Thank you so much.
Thank
now,
you.
remember, folks, to visit. We're going to be also having a wonderful summit where we're going to be talking about our AI in depth, and that's going to be coming up on at the end of October. So we'll be dropping the links. Well, actually, the links have already been dropped in our description box in the bottom of our YouTube channel. So be sure to visit that and visit us next week, because we have Mr. Sam White, who's going to be talking about dream it, build it, and monetize it. You're not going to want to miss that one. How he's an interesting gentleman who took something from a vision, a dream, made it into a vision, and now is doing so well for himself. And he'll be showing some tricks of the trades to do that. So we hope to see you next Wednesday.
Absolutely. And remember, if you have thoughts about our content, always leave us a message. You can post it right on the YouTube site. And I just want to say something about the description box, because some people are looking for a box. And years ago, when I heard about it, there is no box. Right under our content, there is a description, and you will see the word more. When you click on more, you'll find all that we're talking about. You'll be able to see our videos from past seasons and anything that we've updated. So once again, thank you. Have a great night, and we will see you next week.
Yes. Good night, everyone.